G'day, this is going to be a compliance video for EMS. It's a new requirement that the Department of Justice is requiring for all Medicare providers. Medicare is one of our largest payers for ambulance transport, so this is one of the new requirements. When you're watching this video, keep in mind that it's important to think of compliance, a lot of things that he's talking about, only in the manner of billing for EMS. It doesn't have to do with discipline and all the other things for fireground things. This is only talking about things in the manner for billing for EMS services. So keep that in mind. Sit back. This is a 26-minute video. I'll pop in at the end and give you guys some kind of key components to think about.
Hi, this is Kevin Fairley, and this is your introduction to your compliance program. A little bit about me quickly. I am an attorney, been an attorney for 20 years, specializing in healthcare, but primarily in EMS, ambulance, fire-based EMS organizations and law. I have been involved in representing organizations under federal investigation, Department of Justice investigations for a number of years. I also have considerable operational experience in the EMS ambulance industry. I've been involved running organizations as large as doing 80,000 transports a year with 600 plus employees. So I have a combination of legal and operational experience, and I'm a co-founder of EMS Compliance, a company we started a number of years ago because we knew that most EMS and fire agencies simply don't have the internal resources to conduct a compliance program entirely on their own. So your organization has retained us, and we assist in providing the tools and services for you to have an effective compliance program. So let's jump right into it. When we're talking about compliance, compliance involves rules and regulations, and so here I'm going to go over a few slides that involve real-world cases over the past couple of years. So here, Department of Justice, these are all press releases from the Department of Justice U.S. Attorney's Office. This one is the Eastern District of North Carolina, released October 25th, 2019. Ambulance company manager and biller plead guilty to $4.7 million fraud upon Medicare and Humana and to aggravated identity theft. So in this case, the U.S. Attorney announced in federal court that Pamela Babb, 49 years old, Devon Henderson, 32 years old, of Greenville, North Carolina, pleaded guilty to a criminal investigation charging both of them with conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and aggravated identity theft. So from 2019, late 2019, this is one case of compliance issues involving an ambulance company. The next one, again, Department of Justice press release in Florida, Tampa, January 30th, 2018. Tampa's largest ambulance providers agree to pay $5.5 million to resolve False Claims Act allegations regarding medically unnecessary ambulance transports. So running ambulance transports and billing them to Medicare when the federal government says those trips weren't necessary and shouldn't have been billed to Medicare. So, here, AmeriCare Ambulance Service is the organization. They agreed to pay $5.5 million to resolve these allegations that they defrauded Medicare by billing for these unnecessary ambulance transports. A final example, this one is out of Missouri, the Western District, Wednesday, May 31st, 2017. This one's a little bit different, not Medicare fraud. So an example that compliance doesn't always involve billing Medicare, Medicaid, that sort of thing. Here we have two former Vernon County Ambulance District employees who were indicted for embezzling $260,000. This was out of Springfield, Missouri. U.S. Attorney announces that the former director of this ambulance district and the former bookkeeper have been indicted by a federal grand jury for embezzling more than $260,000 from the district. So those are some examples, real world, of the types of things that get organizations into trouble. There's a lot more that can get organizations into trouble, and that a compliance program is designed as a safety net to avoid, but those are some real world examples. So what is a compliance program? The Office of Inspector General, the OIG, which is a division of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the OIG is essentially FBI. They have the same authority, similar authority as the FBI, to investigate crimes, and all designed around ensuring the integrity of Medicare and Medicaid. So to make sure that people aren't receiving money from Medicare, Medicaid, federal funds that they shouldn't be. So here is actually all the way back to May of 2001, the OIG published their compliance program guidance for ambulance suppliers, which covers everyone in the U.S. that is billing Medicare for ambulance services. So this has been around for a long time, nearly 20 years, but most organizations, a lot of organizations aren't familiar with this. So the compliance program guidance, it says this compliance program guidance should assist ambulance suppliers and other healthcare providers in developing their own strategies for complying with federal healthcare program requirements. So this is kind of from the feds what a compliance program should be. Jump to the next slide. This again is from this compliance guidance. It says the OIG recognizes the ambulance industry is comprised of entities of enormous variation. Some ambulance companies are large, many are small. Some are for-profit, many are not for-profit. Some are affiliated with hospitals, many are independent, and some are operated by municipalities or counties, while others are commercially owned for-profit. Consequently, this guidance is not intended to be a one-size-fits-all guide. So this is important. The feds say that organizations need a compliance program, but they also recognize that there's a lot of variation. There are key elements that we'll go over that should be in every compliance program, but just know, what, for instance, the largest hospital in your area, what they're doing in terms of compliance will be very different than what an EMS agency is doing, simply based on size. So, if you hear other people are doing other things, it doesn't mean what your organization is doing is wrong. It just may need to be different due to size. So what are the compliance program elements? Go over these quickly and then in more depth in the following slides. But this OIG guidance from the feds says, one, that you need to have policies and procedures related to your compliance program. You need to designate a compliance officer. There must be education and training. There must be internal monitoring and reviews. There needs to be appropriate responses to misconduct. There needs to be open lines of communication within the organization from the lowest level on up. And there needs to be well-publicized guidelines. So what do these things mean? Compliance policies and procedures. So your organization, through the assistance of EMS Compliance, we provide policies and procedures that are related to and necessary for an effective compliance program. Your organization has adopted these or is in the process, depending on where you are. Those should be available to you. It may be a part of your new employee hiring, ongoing education and training. Those policies are available to you. One of the most critical is a code of conduct. So this is essential in any type of compliance program. And again, we have created a code of conduct that your organization may have adopted. Your organization may have already had an effective code of conduct and continue to use that, but you will have one in place. And this is from our recommended code of conduct. It says, this code of conduct, which is a part of our compliance program, is intended to be a clear and concise summary of fundamental ethical standards with which all employees must comply when conducting business on our behalf. So this document, which is a policy, sets out the expectations for the organization and the employees in terms of how you act ethically and in compliance with laws and regulations. Designating a compliance official, the second element. Again, your agency has engaged EMS Compliance to assist in the development and ongoing administration of your compliance program. So we understand that individuals, even all the way up to the top, can't devote all of their time, even a significant portion of their time, towards compliance. So we assist with that. But there is within your organization an individual who has been tasked with the oversight of your compliance program and as the contact with us at EMS Compliance. We also provide 2 leadership and compliance officer hotline. So if people in your leadership or whoever is tasked with this, if they have questions on changing laws, complex laws, issues internally, they pick up the phone and call us, and we assist them in those issues. Education and training, probably the most important of all of these. Being educated about your compliance program and understanding your rights, as well as your responsibilities under the program, is the most important aspect of a successful compliance program. If you don't know anything about compliance, anything that your organization is doing, it's not going to be as effective as it could be, because you need to know about the tools and resources available to you. So as a part of our your organization and the services we provide, you will receive ongoing education sessions related to compliance. You're listening to one right now, the overview of compliance. Your organizational leadership attend compliance training designed specifically for them through webinars and other educational materials. We do specific training and webinars for the leadership within your organization so that they're up to date on current events, current issues in compliance, as well as anything they need to be doing to run a successful compliance program. And many of the compliance training sessions will be mandatory. The one you're sitting through, I expect, is mandatory. We want all employees to be trained, at least initially, on compliance program elements. Internal monitoring and reviews. So what does that mean? As a part of your organization's compliance program, it will conduct compliance-related audits to identify potential problem areas. Here, the OIG says, look, you need to be looking at what you're doing and have some independent outside organizations looking at what you're doing, because you may not even realize that you're doing, maybe billing things incorrectly, don't have any knowledge that you're doing that, and therefore you need to engage outside parties, depending on your size, maybe once a year, maybe once every 3 years. It just depends on the size, and we help with that, to take a look at things and make sure that you're operating as you should be. And as set out in the compliance policies and procedures we talked about earlier, your organization will make appropriate changes as identified through internal and external auditing and monitoring. So if you had an outside audit says, hey, look, maybe you're doing documentation, you should make some changes to that, your billing, whatever it may be that's identified, it's not enough just to identify it. You need to, your organization will implement steps to make changes. Appropriate response to misconduct. So this is another essential element. In order for your compliance program to be successful, the organization and individuals who make up that organization must be held reasonably accountable for their actions. So it's not enough just to say, hey, we will do the right thing. We need to look at the actions, and actions must demonstrate that we are doing the right thing, certainly striving to do the right thing. So what's that mean? Being held accountable may simply involve educating or re-educating individuals on expectations. So again, maybe it's through an audit, maybe, but it's a human resources type issue where you identify employees that aren't doing things correctly. If there's no intent, no ill will, it's most likely, in most cases, it's just some re-education on expectations. Of course, that could be more severe. It could also include up to immediate termination for an action that involves serious consequences, such as intentionally violating the law. Going back to the example with the employees that were embezzling, if it turns up at some point that somebody's embezzling funds in your organization, they're probably going to be terminated. Open lines of communication, another critical element. Your compliance program is designed so that you should always feel comfortable raising concerns within your organization about potential ethical or compliance issues. If you have a concern, raise it. That compliance program is designed so that everyone feels comfortable that if you see something, if you're not sure about something, maybe that people aren't doing things the right way or doing things that they should be, you need to feel comfortable that you can raise those concerns. And your organization feels the same way. That's why they've gone out and engaged us. That's why they have implemented a compliance program. And as a part of this, your policies and procedures say that there's not to be retaliation. If somebody brings something up, it's not appropriate, and it won't be allowed for people to retaliate against you. Sometimes employees still have concerns. So through EMS Compliance, your organization has also adopted an anonymous compliance hotline. Here, there's a toll-free number where you can report compliance concerns. So if, it might be, you might run into a case where it's your supervisor or even, a fire chief or a CEO that you think is doing something inappropriate. Well, it's reasonable that you wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable raising that internally. If that's the case, we operate for you an anonymous compliance hotline where you can call. You don't have to leave your name. You can just provide an overview, and we always try and get as much information as possible so it can actually be investigated, but you can remain anonymous. Your organization would rather hear about an issue internally, even if it's anonymous, so that we can investigate and see if it's, a real issue and take steps to correct it. This next slide is a sample of one of our compliance hotline posters. You should be able to find this around your organization. It has the 1-800 number. It gives an overview of the types of things that would be appropriate to call and inform us on. I will say that this is not just a hotline for employees to vent. If it's not a real compliance issue, we are not going to spend time investigating it. So, if your complaint is, I don't like my partner, or, my partner is using foul language, something like that, that's an HR issue. You can call the compliance hotline, but we filter those sorts of things and investigate things that we know based on our number of years of experience are true compliance type issues. Well-publicized guidelines. is the is another step in the OIG compliance guidance. So again, we want everyone within the organization to know about the compliance program, know about the policies and procedures, know about these elements. So again, the code of conduct, policies and procedures, those, you have access to those. And if you want to see them and review them, if you haven't already, you can ask your supervisor, ask your training officer, whoever would be appropriate, ask HR to get access to those policies and procedures. And we intentionally have kept those, it's not massive. We want you to have the tools you need to without overkill. So the amount of compliance program policies and procedures is relatively small, and you should look at it and review it. Again, you're going to receive annual training. This may be a part of your annual training right now that you're listening to, new employee training, so that everyone is familiar with these policies, procedures, in your compliance program. So real quickly, just some relevant laws and regulations. We went over some real examples. One of the big areas in compliance, again, involves Medicare, Medicaid, and submitting claims to the government to get paid when an organization shouldn't be. So the False Claims Act, quickly, this is, it's stated that it establishes liability when any person or entity improperly receives from or avoids returning money to the federal government. The Act prohibits knowingly presenting or causing to be presented a false claim for payment or approval by the federal government. So in healthcare and EMS, this generally involves the submission of false claims to Medicare or Medicaid for reimbursement. Sometimes these cases, it's blatant. I've seen plenty of cases where ambulance companies or organizations actually create fake trips, fake documentation to submit so that they get paid for things they didn't do. A lot of times it's simply an organization not necessarily understanding exactly how things should be billed. So for example, in EMS, it might be a transport that Medicare, according to their definition, they would consider a basic life support or a BLS transport, which they pay at a lower level, versus an ALS that they would pay more money towards. So it might be a case where an organization is billing things at the ALS level, maybe even not knowingly, when Medicare said you should have submitted the claim for BLS. So that would be an example. So this is the Federal False Claims Act. A lot of states, most states also have a similar False Claim Act that would involve state level issues, especially Medicaid. Medicaid is both federal and state, so it's a combination. The federal anti-kickback statute is another one that plays a big role in healthcare. In general, the anti-kickback statute prohibits the offering, solicitation, or acceptance of any type of gift or exchange of money for rewarding referrals for federal healthcare program business. So what's that mean? It can take various different forms. One of the most common examples in EMS would be an EMS agency going to a hospital and saying, hey, if you pick up the phone and call us for all your transports, we're not going to charge you for transports that you, hospital, would be responsible for paying. So that's a kickback. We're saying, the organization would be saying, we're not going to charge you, but we want you to pick up the phone and call us so that we get all the other business that we can charge for. It also works both ways, and there's been a lot of recent cases on this where it may be a hospital, and this is just general, there's actually some safeguards in there, but for instance, a hospital saying, okay, ambulance organization, we're going to give you supplies, different free things that you would otherwise have to buy But wink, wink, we want you, when you pick up somebody, to bring those patients to the hospital. So that would be an example of an anti-kickback statute, which has the same implication as the False Claims Act, huge fines and prison. So to wrap up, compliance expectations. It's actually sounds somewhat complicated at times, but compliance programs are not overly complicated. And the goal here is to create a culture of compliance. Everyone, your organization, again, has retained us. Everyone wants to be striving to do the right thing. So what are employee expectations, responsibilities? Know and follow the expectations set out in the Code of Conduct. It's pretty straightforward. Review it. Speak up when you have concerns. Again, the organization wants to know. If there's something going on that they're not aware of, it's best for them to be informed and to take reasonable steps to try and correct it. And participate in compliance training and education. Well, you're already doing that by listening to this training program. Organization responsibilities. Provide open lines of communication so that employees can raise concerns. Respond promptly and thoroughly to compliance issues. And importantly, not retaliate against employees for raising concerns. As a part of your compliance program, that is what your organization has committed to, among other things, but these are the important ones. So that's it. Pretty straightforward overview. If you have additional questions, contact your supervisor or possibly a training instructor, and know that compliance training will be ongoing as things change. You will be provided with other educational opportunities in the future. And if you're unsure about things, ask about it. That's part of this culture of compliance in your organization. And feel free to visit our website emscompliance.com, to see more information about us. And that wraps things up. Thanks for your time.
All right, welcome back from that. It was a scorcher, I can tell. I just want to remind you guys of these 7 elements that they talked about in here. And element 1 is policies and procedures. We do have policies and procedures for compliance. They are loaded on FireNet in the EMS section. We're making a separate compliance section. So a lot of things sounded scary in there, but once again, they are only for EMS billing compliance with Medicare. So designation of a compliance officer, that's going to be me or Chief Karosik. Will both be certified in the next year through Medicare and Medicaid for compliance officer training. Education and training, welcome. This is your education and training. For you guys, it's going to be one video like this once a year. For us, a lot more classes, a lot more certifications. Internal monitoring. So there's a lot of things that go on with billing for Medicare and Medicaid that we meet the requirements on. We are actually audited by Medicare and Medicaid on a regular basis. Last year we were audited 3 times as part of the regular standard training, prevention, and education. So we always pass those. We always get through things. They find some really small, glitchy little things every now and then. They're all corrected, and we always pass those. Response to misconduct. So this and the next one are open lines of communication, and both of these kind of fall together. So in your stations, there's going to be a new flyer that says Compliance and Ethics Hotline on it. There's an 800 number on there. One of the key things to know about this is that 800 number is on the wall. So if you feel that something is going on and improper billing practices are going on from our company that does our billing, which is Digitech, you can call that 800 number and an investigation will be started. So that's one of the key things to this. And then well-publicized guidelines. Like I said, all of these policies, procedures, and compliance documents are on FireNet. They're available. There will be some training over them, and you'll be able to look that stuff up. So the key thing is, if you are standing around an ambulance bay and an ambulance Medicare inspector showed up and asked you what you know about EMS compliance, you can go, we're not supposed to falsify documentation, which is true. And you can always call the 800 number if you suspect something going on. And that's the key to this, is we have open communication, we have the policies and procedures, and there's a system set up so that if you think there's something improper going on, you can call the 800 number. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or Chief Karosik. We'll be happy to answer any questions. There's a whole lot more to this. This is just kind of grazing the surface. Sorry, this isn't the most exciting subject, but it's required. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. Thank you.